The ESS Pioneer drifted into unfamiliar space, its FTL drive cooling after the accidental jump. Captain Hannah Kim squinted at the viewscreen, her experienced eyes widening at the sight of thousands of ships orbiting what appeared to be an artificial ringworld. "Status report," she ordered, maintaining her composure despite the unexpected situation. Lieutenant Topark swallowed hard before responding. "Captain, we're receiving hundreds of communication requests. Most are in unknown languages, but our AI is translating one that keeps repeating. They're welcoming us to something called the Galactic Concordat." The bridge crew fell silent. Humanity's first faster-than-light vessel had been meant to travel to Proxima Centauri and back, a simple test mission. Instead, a calculation error had sent them here, wherever here was. "Put it on screen," ordered Kim. The view screen flickered, revealing a tall, silvery being with 4 arms and a smooth, featureless face. Only 2 glowing points suggested eyes. "Unknown vessel," the alien spoke, the ship's eye translating with only a slight delay. "You have entered Concordat space. Identify yourselves." Captain Kim stood tall. "This is Captain Hannah Kim of the Earth ship Pioneer. We are explorers from Earth who seem to have made a navigational error." There was a pause before the alien responded. "Earth? This system is not in our records. Are you from the Outer Rim?" "We're from the Sol system," offered Dr. Jin Lee, the ship's science officer. He quickly sent basic stellar coordinates. This caused visible confusion among the aliens. After several minutes of discussion in their own language, they returned to the screen. "Your coordinates place you outside known space. Fascinating. The High Council wishes to welcome you. Please follow our escort to docking station Alpha 7. 4 sleek ships moved into position around the Pioneer. They looked impressive at first glance, large, with sweeping curves and glowing blue engines. But Dr. Lee noticed something odd. "Captain," he whispered, "their propulsion systems are inefficient. I'm detecting thrust wastage of at least 30%. Kim nodded but kept her expression neutral. "We're guests for now. Let's keep observations to ourselves." The Pioneer followed its escort toward the massive ringworld. As they approached, they could see it was a constructed habitat, not a natural formation. Its inner surface gleamed with city lights and artificial landscapes. "It's beautiful," murmured Communications Officer's son. "But old," added Engineer Da quietly. "Look at those support structures. The metal shows fatigue patterns. This thing has been here for thousands of years with minimal updates." When they docked, a delegation of the Silver Aliens awaited them. The tallest stepped forward with a sweeping gesture of all 4 arms. "Welcome, primitive newcomers. I am Grand Interpreter Fall. You stand in the heart of the Galactic Concordat, ruler of 8,000 worlds, and keeper of peace for 12,000 cycles." Captain Kim maintained her diplomatic smile despite the condescending greeting. "Thank you for your welcome. I'm Captain Kim, and this is my senior staff." Fall's glowing eyes dimmed and brightened in what might have been blinks of surprise. "You respond with remarkable clarity for a first-contact species. Your translator technology is impressive. We developed it for Earth's many languages," Dr. Lee explained simply, not mentioning that their AI translation system had been built just 3 years ago. Fall led them through wide corridors filled with aliens of different species. All moved with careful precision, following marked paths on the floor. "This station houses representatives from all major Concordat worlds," Fall explained with obvious pride. "It has been the center of galactic civilization for 8,000 cycles." "How long is a cycle?" asked Lieutenant Park. "Approximately 1.4 of your Earth years," replied Fall after their systems converted the measurements. The humans exchanged glances. This station was over 11,000 years old. Impressive, but also concerning that they hadn't rebuilt or significantly updated it in all that time. Fall brought them to a transit hub where a sleek silver vehicle waited on a single rail. This transit system has operated flawlessly for 800 cycles. he announced proudly. Dr. Lee nodded politely while quietly noting to Kim, "It's basically a monorail. We had these on Earth centuries ago." Their tour continued for hours. The aliens showed off their technology with increasing enthusiasm, clearly expecting awe and amazement from the humans. Instead, the crew of the Pioneer responded with polite interest, but not the wonder the aliens seemed to anticipate. In a vast chamber filled with holographic displays showing distant worlds, Thal finally addressed their muted reactions. "You seem unimpressed by the wonders of the Concordat. Perhaps your species does not fully comprehend what you are seeing." Captain Kim chose her words carefully. "We are very grateful for your hospitality, Grand Interpreter. We're simply processing a lot of new information." Of course, Thal's tone held a hint of condescension. "When your species joins the Concordat, you'll have centuries to learn and adapt to our superior ways." Later, as the human delegation was shown to their quarters, Engineer Dai whispered to Captain Kim, "Their power systems are running at maybe 60% efficiency, and I haven't seen a single piece of technology that looks less than 100 years old, design-wise." Captain Kim nodded thoughtfully. "It seems we found a vast galactic empire that stopped innovating long ago. Keep observing, but be respectful." As the humans settled in for the night, Kim stared out at the massive station stretching around them. The Galactic Concordat clearly ruled vast territories and commanded enormous resources, but for all their grand displays and talk of superiority, they were showing signs of long-term stagnation that no human engineer would tolerate. Earth, it seemed, might have more to offer this ancient empire than anyone here expected. 3 months had passed since the accidental discovery of the Galactic Concordat. In that short time, Earth had established formal diplomatic relations and set up an embassy on Celestia Prime, the massive ring world that served as the empire's capital. Ambassador Jun Kim stood by the window of his office, watching the constant flow of alien traffic below. Thousands of different species moved in orderly patterns, following designated paths with almost robotic precision. "Another beautiful day in the land of rules and regulations," he muttered to himself. Behind him, Engineer Sue Park sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by disassembled parts of a Concordat communication device. Her fingers moved deftly among the components, occasionally pausing to scan something with her handheld analyzer. "Their power efficiency is terrible," Sue said, setting aside a glowing power cell. "And they're still using physical circuits when quantum entanglement would be far superior." The ambassador turned from the window. "Can you fix it?" Sue snorted. "Fix it? I could rebuild it to be 4 times more efficient with half the materials. But that's not the point." "What is the point then?" June asked, though he already knew the answer. "The point is that this technology hasn't changed in at least 500 years, Sue said, holding up a circuit board. "Look at the manufacturing date encoded here. This part was designed 487 years ago. The exact same design is still being produced today." June nodded. "I've noticed similar patterns in everything they've shown us. They haven't developed new technology in centuries. They just build bigger versions of the same designs. It's like they reached a certain level and just stopped," Sue said, reassembling the device with quick, practiced movements. "No innovation, no improvements. Just maintenance of the status quo." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from the door. The embassy's AI announced, "Undersecretary Velm requests entry." "Let them in," Jum said, straightening his formal diplomatic jacket. The door slid open to reveal a tall, silvery figure. Undersecretary Velm was a mid-level bureaucrat assigned to the human embassy. Like all members of the Concordat's founding species, Velm had 4 arms and metallic skin that shifted and rippled with emotional states. Right now, that skin was forming small nervous patterns, what humans had learned to recognize as anxiety. "Honorable Ambassador," Velm began with formal stiffness, all 4 hands making the ritual greeting gesture. "I trust you find your accommodations satisfactory." "Very much so," Jun replied with practiced diplomacy. Your hospitality continues to impress us. Velm's skin smoothed slightly. Good, good. However, I must address a matter of some concern. The alien paused, clearly uncomfortable. The High Council requests that your engineers stop offering unauthorized modifications to our systems. It disrupts the harmony of order. Sue looked up from her work but remained silent, allowing the ambassador to handle the diplomatic exchange. June smiled warmly. We apologize for any disruption. Our people are naturally curious and eager to help. Perhaps we could establish a formal process for suggesting improvements. Improvements. Velm's skin rippled more intensely. Our systems are perfected. Ambassador, they have maintained the Concordat for thousands of cycles. Changes introduce instability and risk. Of course, Jun said smoothly. We meant no offense. We'll ensure our staff respects your protocols going forward. After several more minutes of formal pleasantries, Velm departed, apparently satisfied with the resolution. As soon as the door closed, Sue burst into laughter. They're upset because our efficiency upgrades to their environmental system reduced energy consumption by 40%. Do you know what the chief engineer said when I showed him? He asked why anyone would want to use less energy when they have plenty. June sighed and sat down at his desk. They don't like change, he observed. They've built an empire on stability, not innovation, and we represent exactly what they fear most. Sue carefully placed the reassembled communication device on a shelf. But why? How does a civilization spanning thousands of worlds just decide to stop improving? Fear, I think, Jun replied. According to the historical archives they've shared, the Concordat formed after a devastating war nearly destroyed their civilization. Their solution was to freeze everything in place: technology, social structures, even art forms. Change became associated with chaos and destruction. Sue shook her head in disbelief. But that's not how progress works. That's not how life works. Their conversation was interrupted by a new message appearing on Jun's screen. He leaned forward, reading quickly. Well, this is interesting, he said. We've been invited to a meeting with representatives from some of the lesser species within the Concordat. Apparently, word of our technological approach has spread. They want our help? Sue asked. They want to talk, Jun corrected. Privately, away from Concordat oversight. Later that evening, in a quiet section of the diplomatic quarter, Jun and Sue met with 5 representatives from different worlds within the Empire. Unlike the dominant silver-skinned founders, these species showed remarkable diversity, from the bird-like avari to the crystalline lith. What your people have done in 3 months has caused more discussion than we've seen in centuries, said the avari representative, her feathers shifting nervously. Is that good or bad? Jun asked carefully. The crystalline lith glinted as they spoke. For the Concordat rulers, bad. For those of us who remember what it was like to innovate and grow. Perhaps the most hopeful sign in generations. Sue leaned forward. What exactly do you want from us? The representatives exchanged glances before the avari spoke again. Nothing yet. But know this, not everyone in the Concordat fears change. Some of us have been waiting a very long time for something to disrupt the eternal stillness. As they walked back to the embassy under the artificial night sky of Celestia Prime, Jun thought about the implications. Earth had stumbled into something far more complex than a simple diplomatic relationship. We might be starting something we can't control, he said quietly. Sue nodded. True, but from what I've seen of their technology, this empire needs a good shake-up. Above them, the vast curve of the ring world stretched into the distance, beautiful, grand, and unchanged for thousands of years, but perhaps not for much longer. 1 year into human Concordat relations, things were not going well. What had started as an accidental first contact had grown into a tense standoff. Admiral Hannah Kim, recently promoted from her captain position, stood in the center of Earth's Security Council chamber. Behind her, a large screen showed maps of Concordat space. The situation is becoming more complex each day, Admiral Kim explained. pointing to the map. The Concordat spans over 8,000 worlds, but we've discovered they maintain control through technological dependency. They deliberately keep subject species reliant on their infrastructure. The room was silent as the council members absorbed this information. Councillor Min, an older woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "How exactly do they create this dependency?" she asked. Kim touched her screen, bringing up technical diagrams. Each world receives standardized technology packages. The Concordat maintains exclusive control over production and repair of critical components. No world can operate independently. "Like selling printers cheap but making fortunes on ink cartridges," muttered Councillor Park. "Exactly," Kim nodded. "But since our arrival, we've unintentionally disrupted this balance by sharing our more efficient designs. Many worlds now realize they don't need to depend on Concordat systems." Councillor Min raised an eyebrow. "So we've become unwitting revolutionaries." "Exactly," Admiral Kim confirmed. "I've been contacted by representatives from 12 different species within the Concordat. They see us as potential liberators from technological stagnation." "Do they want weapons?" asked Councillor Lee, the defense minister. Kim shook her head. "No, they want knowledge. Manufacturing techniques, engineering principles, things we take for granted, but that the Concordat has suppressed for centuries." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some argued that Earth should withdraw to avoid conflict with the vast empire. Others insisted they had a moral obligation to help species seeking independence. After hours of discussion, they reached a compromise. Earth would continue sharing knowledge, but would avoid direct involvement in Concordat politics. Meanwhile, on Celestia Prime, Ambassador Jun Kim faced a very different meeting. He stood alone in the center of a vast chamber, surrounded by the 7 members of the Architect Council, the ancient aliens who had ruled the Concordat for millennia. They sat on elevated platforms, looking down at him. "This meeting of the Architect Council is now in session," announced the central figure, Senior Architect Hall. Unlike regular Concordat officials, the architect's silver skin was marked with complex patterns showing their great age and status. "Ambassador Kim, we have summoned you to address growing concerns about human activities," Hexal continued, voice echoing in the chamber. Jun maintained a respectful but confident posture. "I am here to listen and discuss any concerns." "Your species moves too quickly," Senior Architect Saul declared. "In 1 year, you have disrupted patterns established over thousands of cycles. You must restrict your technological sharing and accept proper integration into our hierarchy." Another architect spoke. 17 worlds have begun using human water purification methods instead of our approved systems. This creates dangerous instability. "And your energy generation techniques have spread to 34 systems," added a third architect, "without proper oversight and control." June took a deep breath before responding. "With respect, we cannot limit human innovation. It's fundamental to our nature. We do not share knowledge to cause disruption, but because sharing information is natural to us. You must adapt to our ways," insisted Uxal. "All species within the Concordat must follow established protocols. Humans are willing to cooperate," Jun replied carefully, "but not at the cost of our core values. Innovation and the free exchange of ideas are essential to our identity." The architects conferred among themselves, their skin patterns shifting rapidly in what Jun had learned indicated agitation. Finally, a previously silent architect spoke. "Then perhaps humans are incompatible with galactic harmony," they suggested ominously. The meaning was clear. This was no longer a diplomatic discussion, but a threat. "I hope that is not the case," Jun replied evenly. "Earth wishes for peaceful relations with all species." The meeting ended soon after, with no resolution. As Jun returned to the embassy, his security chief, Officer Han, met him at the entrance. "Sir, Concordat security forces are gathering around the embassy perimeter," Han reported quietly. "They've blocked 3 of our 5 access points." Jun nodded calmly. "Implement Security Protocol Omega," and contact Earth immediately. Within the hour, Concordat security forces moved in to completely restrict access to the human embassy. They'd brought their most advanced weapons and surveillance equipment, clearly intending to isolate the humans completely. What happened next shocked them. Every surveillance device they activated immediately went dark. Their communication systems picked up only static. When they attempted to use their energy weapons in a show of force against the embassy's outer wall, the weapons simply powered down. From the embassy roof, June and Officer Han watched the confusion below. "Are all the countermeasures working?" June asked. Han nodded, checking her tablet. Engineer Su's analysis of their technology was perfect. "We've been preparing for this possibility since week 2 of our arrival." A Concordat commander looked up, spotted them on the roof, and shouted something that their translators didn't catch. The message from the humans, however, was perfectly clear without words. They had studied Concordat technology, found its weaknesses, and developed countermeasures for everything the Empire could throw at them. Humans wouldn't be intimidated. Later that night, a secure message arrived from Admiral Kim on Earth. "Embassy security is our top priority. The Defender will arrive within 72 hours with reinforcements and supplies. Hold your position." June stared at the message, understanding its implications. The Defender was Earth's newest and most advanced warship. The Concordat was about to discover that humans were not just clever engineers but also formidable when threatened. The game of galactic politics had entered a dangerous new phase. The situation was reaching a breaking point. 18 months after humanity's accidental arrival in Concordat space, Admiral Hannah Kim sat in her command center on Earth, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. The screens around her showed growing unrest throughout the vast galactic empire. Intelligence Officer Du stood at attention, delivering her report. "Independence movements have emerged on 122 worlds," she stated calmly. "The Concordat Central Authority is calling it the human corruption." Kim sighed, rubbing her temples. "We didn't start this. We just showed people alternatives to their stagnant systems." "True, Admiral," Officer Du agreed, "but the Architect Council doesn't see it that way. They believe we deliberately undermine their authority." The Admiral studied the galactic map, noting the spreading pattern of unrest. It followed the trade routes where human merchants and engineers had traveled, sharing ideas and techniques freely. "What's the Concordat's response?" Kim asked. "Increased military presence on affected worlds." "And?" Officer Du hesitated. "And what?" "They've moved their battle fleet to Celestia Prime and blockaded our embassy there. Ambassador June and his staff are effectively trapped." Kim's expression darkened. "Have they cut communications?" "They've tried, but our quantum entanglement systems still work. The ambassador can speak with us, but the situation is tense." Kim stood and straightened her uniform. "Prepare the defense fleet. I'm not saying we'll need it, but I want it ready." On Celestia Prime, the situation had indeed reached crisis levels. 6 massive Concordat warships hovered directly above Earth's embassy, their weapons systems active and targeting locks engaged. The embassy's shields were holding, but the message was clear. The Concordat's patience had run out. Ambassador June Kim stood on the embassy roof, watching the massive vessels through the transparent energy shield. Each ship was at least 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapon ports. They were intimidating by design, ancient engines glowing with power. His communication officer, Yun, approached with a tablet. Her face was calm despite the tense situation. "Sir, we've received confirmation. Our allies are ready." June nodded and took a deep breath. For months, while conducting official diplomacy with the Concordat, humans had been building relationships throughout the Empire. The lesser species that the dominant Concordat races largely ignored had proven eager for human technology and ideas. "It's time then," he said. "Activate the communication array." Yun tapped at her tablet, and the embassy's powerful transmitter hummed to life. Its signal could reach every ship in the blockade simultaneously. June stepped to the transmitter and spoke clearly. "Attention Concordat forces. This is Ambassador June Kim of Earth. We have no wish for conflict. To demonstrate our continued desire for peace, we will take no action against your blockade." He paused, letting that sink in before continuing. "However, please note that your engines are currently operating on our improved efficiency protocols. Technology we freely shared. We could deactivate these improvements remotely, but we won't. That's not who we are." The ships remained in position, but June could imagine the confusion his message was causing. The Concordat rely on intimidation, expecting fear from those they threatened. The human response, calm acceptance paired with a subtle reminder of technological dependency, was outside their experience. What June didn't mention in his broadcast was the true extent of human influence throughout the Empire. While the Architect Council had focused on the official human presence, engineers and traders from Earth had been forming alliances with dozens of minor species the Concordat had long ignored. "Do you think they'll fire?" Yun asked quietly as they watched the warships. "No," Jun replied. "They need to show strength, but they know we're not defenseless. This is about saving face." Inside the embassy, staff continued their work calmly. Engineer Sue Park had spent months studying Concordat weapon systems and had developed effective countermeasures. The embassy's shields could withstand anything short of a planetary bombardment. June's communicator beeped with an incoming message. "Ambassador, this is Fleet Commander Draz of the Concordat Security Force. You are ordered to surrender the embassy and submit to Concordat authority." "With respect, Commander," June replied evenly. "We cannot comply. Earth remains committed to peaceful relations, but we will not surrender our sovereign embassy." The standoff continued for 3 tense hours. Then something unexpected happened. Eun rushed to June's office, her eyes wide with excitement. "Sir, you need to see this." The main screen activated, showing news feeds from across Concordat space. On 30 major worlds, local governments were making simultaneous announcements, declaring independence from central Concordat authority. Each world used the same technology to broadcast their messages, communication systems designed by human engineers, impossible for the Concordat to shut down or block. The Avari homeworld, Nestra, led the declarations. Their prime minister's feathers gleamed with determination as she spoke. "For too long, we have accepted technological stagnation and dependency. Today, we reclaim our right to progress and self-determination." On the crystalline world of Lithar, the Council of Facets announced, "We withdraw from the Concordat with gratitude for past protection, but firm resolve to chart our own future." World after world, the pattern repeated. Not violent revolution, but calm, determined withdrawal from an empire that had stopped serving its member world's interests centuries ago. Above the embassy, the warships received urgent recall orders. One by one, they powered up their engines and moved away, redirected to deal with the much larger crisis unfolding across the empire. As the last ship departed, Jun received a direct communication from Senior Architect Saul himself. "You have destroyed millennia of peace and order." The ancient alien accused, silver skin patterns showing extreme agitation. "With respect, Architect," Jun replied calmly, "we simply shared knowledge. Your people chose what to do with it. This crisis will not end here," Saul warned before cutting the transmission. June turned to his staff, who had gathered in the control room to watch the blockade disperse. "The real work begins now," he told them. "The Concordat won't surrender control easily, and these newly independent worlds will need help building sustainable systems." Engineer Sue nodded thoughtfully. "So we didn't just change their technology. We changed their whole galaxy." "They changed it themselves," Jum corrected. "We just showed them it was possible." Outside, as the massive warships disappeared into Celestia Prime's artificial sky, a new chapter in galactic history had begun. 2 years after humanity's accidental arrival, the Galactic Concordat existed only in name. The massive chamber that once housed the Architect Council had been transformed. Gone were the elevated platforms where the 7 ancient rulers had looked down upon visitors. Now the space featured a circular arrangement of equal seats, with no position having prominence over others. Admiral Hannah Kim and Ambassador June stood near the entrance, watching representatives from 67 formerly subjugated species fill the room. Each species now governed their own territories, while maintaining alliances through mutual benefit rather than forced hierarchy. I never expected our first venture into FTL travel would reshape an empire, Jun remarked quietly. Admiral Kim smiled. It wasn't our technology that did it. It was our attitude. We walked into their grand empire, and instead of being awed, we just rolled up our sleeves and started fixing things. The transition had not been entirely peaceful. Some Concordat loyalists had attempted to use military force to maintain the old order. But centuries of technological stagnation had left them unprepared for conflict with worlds using human-inspired innovations. Most battles ended quickly, with minimal casualties on either side. More surprising was how many of the Concordat's ruling species had embraced change once they saw its benefits. Younger generations, long frustrated by the rigid hierarchy, had become enthusiastic supporters of the new system. Look at that. Kim pointed to a group of silver-skinned Concordat youth, speaking animatedly with representatives from the bird-like Avari. 2 years ago, they wouldn't even sit in the same room as equals. June nodded. The younger ones adapted quickly once they realized innovation doesn't mean chaos. The chamber quieted as the session was called to order. This was the 3rd meeting of the newly formed Interstellar Cooperative, created to replace the Concordat, with a voluntary association of independent worlds. The meeting proceeded efficiently, with discussions about trade routes, technology sharing protocols, and mutual defense arrangements. Unlike the Concordat's top-down decrees, each decision required consensus. During a break in the proceedings, a familiar figure approached the humans. Former senior architect Saul, now serving as just one representative among equals, had lost much of his former arrogance. His silver skin showed simpler patterns now that he had given up his position in the hierarchy. Ambassador, Admiral. Saul greeted them with a respectful gesture. May I speak with you? Of course, Jun replied. We misunderstood your species, the alien admitted. We thought your lack of reverence was arrogance. We now understand it was simply pragmatism. Admiral Kim tilted her head. How so? For 12,000 cycles, species entering the Concordat would look upon our achievements with awe and submission. Saul explained. They saw our technology as magical, our empire as all-powerful. But humans. He made a gesture that translated as rueful amusement. Humans saw outdated circuits and inefficient engines. We just see problems differently, Jun offered diplomatically. Yes, Chal agreed. Where we saw perfection to be maintained, you saw potential for improvement. I fought against this change, but now I must admit. He hesitated, clearly finding the words difficult. My world is better for it. After Ktal departed, Kim and Jun watched the gathering resume its work. Engineers from Earth sat with their counterparts from a dozen worlds, sharing designs for a new type of medical scanner. Elsewhere, agricultural experts discussed techniques for sustainable farming on different planets. We're the smallest player here in terms of territory, Kim observed. Earth is just one world against thousands. But ideas don't need much space to grow, Jun replied. A commotion near the entrance caught their attention. Engineer Sue Park had arrived, accompanied by her counterpart from the crystalline Lith species. Between them floated a holographic display of a new drive system they developed together. Sue told me that's twice as efficient as our best FTL engines, Kim said. Apparently, the crystal structure of Lith technology solved a problem our engineers had been stuck on for years. That's how it should work, June nodded, everyone contributing their unique perspectives. As the meeting reconvened, the humans took their seats, not at the head of the chamber, but simply as one delegation among many. They hadn't defeated the Galactic Concordat with weapons or armies, They had simply refused to be impressed by hollow grandeur, choosing instead to see problems and fix them. That evening, Admiral Kim prepared her ship for the journey back to Earth. The ESS Pioneer, the very vessel that had accidentally discovered the Concordat 2 years earlier, had been upgraded with technology developed through collaboration with their new allies. "Ready to head home, Admiral?" asked Captain Topark, her former lieutenant who now commanded his own ship. "Not quite yet," Kim replied, looking out at the stars. "I want to make a few stops along the way. The Avari have invited us to see their new educational centers, and the Lith want to show us their crystal gardens. 2 years ago, we were just hoping to reach Proxima Centauri and back," Park marveled. "Now we have friends across the galaxy." Kim smiled as she watched a group of silver-skinned Concordat engineers excitedly examining the Pioneer's new sensor array. The youngest was making rapid notes and suggesting improvements that the human technicians were considering seriously. Throughout the stars of what was once a stagnant empire, innovation flourished once again. And it all began because humans accidentally entered a galactic empire. And they weren't impressed. The end.